If there's a job to be done, Lagos needs to be fixed. I'm the guy that will fix Lagos. Lagos is only a mega city by sheer dint of its population. The term mega city simply describes a city that has 10 million people or more. That's all. In Nigeria, perhaps you take Lagos, Ibadan, and maybe Kano, maybe. And that's it. No, I wasn't. I'd always felt and I'd always said at every opportunity that I was the best candidate. If you go back to YouTube, Google all my appearances on various television stations. And I've always been asked, why do you think you're qualified to be the governor? And I've always said, I'm the best available material right now to be governor of Lagos State. And I probably am the best material ever to contest for governorship in the history of Lagos State. I believe that there's somebody in Lagos that appears to, have aspirations of being some kind of thing god, and thinks that, everybody must bow to him and he owns us all and he's our master. But I'm here to confirm to him his worst fears, that he does not own Lagos. He does not own any one of us. And whatever he has right now is very temporary indeed. The time has come for him to pack his bags and go back to wherever it was he came from in the first place. Lagos has had enough. We need real change. We want to go to a higher level than where we are now. Never mind next level. We want to go to a higher level. And the only way we're going to do that is to remove the only impediment that stands in the way of us and progress. Everybody always forgets that many years ago in this Lagos, there was a time before the internet, a time before WhatsApp, a time before Instagram, a time before Facebook Messenger, a time before GSM even, when an election which appeared to be a done deal for the SDP in precisely 24 hours was turned on its head. Turned on its head, the analog way. People simply put the word out and then everybody started going from door to door, and before you know what was happening, within 24 hours, the mood of Lagos changed. So when they say a day is a long time in politics, that's what they mean. These days, I think the more apt description is 1 hour is a long time in politics. Because that was all it took, wasn't it? To change opinions across Lagos State and across the world about Lagos, about the politics of Lagos. It took just 1 hour, thanks to information technology, to show to Lagosians that actually, you know what, we've been backing up the wrong tree the whole time, and that, there is somebody better. The Action Democratic Party is a party that was founded on ideals that are close to my heart. Education, opening up of the economy in terms of diversifying the economy, economic inclusiveness, better opportunities for youth and women, and so many other things that you would normally take for granted in Western civilizations. Electricity, water, industrial growth, and all these things. These are things that we've come to very sadly accept erroneously in Nigeria, that we'll never get. I've always contested. I contested in 2011 for PDP's ticket. But the PDP in Lagos State at the time were not interested in winning elections. So they presented a candidate that was not quite ready to win. In 2015, after I had done the spade work of degrading the, I think they were called ACN in those days, or had they become APC? Yeah, I can't remember, I think they had become APC shortly before the election. Had done the spade work of degrading their stock amongst the electorate. And then at the very last minute, the PDP decided that I didn't deserve their ticket, and they rigged the primaries right from the top down. But I still didn't leave the PDP then. The only thing that got me to leave the PDP was what I saw as unseriousness at the national level. There were all sorts of shenanigans. They disobeyed their own constitution very flagrantly. And in the process, they allowed in a fifth columnist that eventually became their national chairman. So, pathetically. I saw all of this and I said, you know what? I don't want to be a part of this sort of confusion. And so I resigned entirely from politics. I resigned from politics. Then at a point when I saw what was going on, I've always been in business. I've never left business, even though I was a politician. That was just a part-time gig. My full-time job, my daytime job is real estate. And in my real estate business, I'd been coming across all sorts of difficulties that were manufactured by the APC government at the federal level through their, frankly, idiotic policies on the economy. And, it transpired that Forex had begun to gallop inexorably. Nobody could get any Forex anywhere. The pound had become about 620 naira to 1. The dollar had become 520 naira to 1 on the open market. And then they had an official rate that was almost half of that figure. And some people were creaming off and selling to the rest of the public. Companies that actually needed Forex, that should have been getting it from the central bank at the official rate, could not get it for love nor money, And then it fell into my lap, actually from the CBN website, where they published the October report for Forex utilization. And after reading that report and reading the transactions that were contained therein, I became really angry. I won't lie. I thought of what to do, and I decided that at that spot, the best thing to do was to get on Facebook and broadcast it to the world what was going on at the CBN. People were getting the dollar for as low as 65 kobo on that spreadsheet. 65 kobo per dollar. Somebody was sold $82,000 for that amount. Some people got the dollar at 23 naira, some people got it at 22 naira. And they had the gall, the effrontery to put that on the CBN website, thinking that Nigerians are so stupid that they will not read it. And to some extent, they actually proved to be correct, because most Nigerians did not read it. I was not aware of it until an online paper called Leadership newspaper. They did an analysis of that spreadsheet and posted a copy of it on their website. And that was what I saw and read. And I did that on January 30th, 2017. And on February 22nd, 2017, the Directorate of State Services came calling at Amen Estate to pick me up. Unfortunately for them, I was not available that day. But after verifying that the invitation actually did come from them, I went 2 days later and surrendered myself to them. Of course, I knew that they had come to detain me and that I might be with them for quite a while. So what I did when I was going was I packed a bag. I had a pair of slippers in it. I had a toothbrush in it. I had a change of clothes. I had a towel. I had my sponge, a soap, and toothpaste. Because I knew that I was going into detention. They never said that I was going into detention. But I also knew why they were inviting me. I knew it was to do with that Forex thing. Because, when you rattle the cage of tyrants like that, when you rattle the cage of crooks like that, they use whatever powers they have to get at you. And unfortunately for us, they're the ones in power. And they have no restraint. They have no sense of restraint. They have no sense of propriety. And they just do what they like when they like. I mean, look at what they did with the Commissioner of Police in Lagos State. They sacked him, And then the new man came in and said, actually, you know what, this doesn't make sense. He brought him back. You've seen all sorts of acts of impunity on the part of this government, acts that we had never seen on the Nigerian political landscape. And they'll, roll out some pseudo-intellectuals to come and justify acts of patent madness, in my opinion. I'd start with pay. I'll start with civil service pay. Civil service pay in Lagos State is really disgraceful. For a state with the kind of cost of living that Lagos has, the kind of monies that we pay to our civil servants is just disgraceful. It doesn't pass mustard. I'm looking, based on our cost of living, at somewhere around 100 to 150 as minimum pay in Lagos State, 1,000. The reason inflation exists in Lagos is actually due to either government action or government inaction. That's usually the reason why there's inflation. One of the government actions that makes inflation thrive is the non-availability of credit in the banking system. Good credit is not available because interest rates are just crazy. All right, that's the first thing that drives inflation. Second thing that drives inflation is all sorts of obstacles in public utilities and infrastructure. Our infrastructure is inexcusably bad. Our roads are bad. And I don't see any reason why they should be. There is absolutely no reason. And when you talk to the guys that have been in charge of Lagos for the last 20 years, they come up with all sorts of stupid arguments. Oh, there are so many people in Lagos, but there are so many people in China too. Lagos is overcrowded. Actually, Lagos is not. Lagos has 4,900 people per square kilometer. Singapore has 7,500 people per square kilometer. So Singapore is actually more crowded than Lagos, and therefore by rights they should have no roads whatsoever, going by the argument that is always proffered by these APC people. All right? But Singapore has some of the best roads in the world, despite their 7,500 people per square kilometer. One of the biggest problems with corruption in Lagos is people are just hungry. End of story. People just need their needs to be met. People must eat. They must wear clothes. They have children. They must pay school fees. They must buy petrol into their car. They must buy petrol for their generator. Government is the biggest employer of labor in Lagos. And that is something that we need to turn on its head as quickly as possible. One of the best ways of doing that, satisfy the civil servants. Let them not become an obstacle, the obstacle that they have remained for the last 50 years or so, okay, to progress. Let them feel like they are stakeholders in this matter, all right? A level 12 man that is on 140,000 naira per month will steal if he gets the opportunity, all right? If he doesn't steal, he will set up roadblocks and toll gates on his desk. Your file will disappear. For those of us who have been, people of my age, all right, that have been in business for quite a while in Lagos, you would hear that threat from time to time from civil servants. Oga, your file go miso. Fine, sono. You hear that all the time, so you know what it means. And, most of the time, unfortunately, people have to play ball or else their business will suffer very serious losses. So the upside to paying people a living wage is actually more than whatever disadvantages that there might be. And inflation can be controlled. You can control it simply by doing all the things that you're supposed to do. One of the ways to control inflation is to make power available. All right? That's not going to happen really quickly. So there are palliative measures that we have in mind, like solar panels, like inverters, like batteries, that we're going to be buying using the economies of scale that government purchasing power can provide, okay? And we're going to be distributing them on a small scale basis, maybe 1.5 kilowatt, maybe maximum of like 5 kilowatts per inverter, per solar unit. Not for every house. We'll start with small businesses, medium enterprises, okay, service providers, small businesses. These are the people that we're going to be targeting. Not subsidized and not free, but you amortize it over a period of like 5 to 10 years. So that way it doesn't impact on your business heavily, the way it would have done if you had to go buy it outright. But the upside for us in that is that more people will get into employment, whether formal or informal, and they will enter the tax net. Okay? Because government funding should actually be more reliant on taxation. And we're not getting taxes because people are out of jobs. It's pretty simple. So you help people to get into jobs, you help people to create jobs, okay? More people become taxable. And you get more revenue from that. And that's how it works. That's how you build an economy. You create economic opportunities for people. You help them look for ways of reducing their actual cost of living from day to day. The inflation in Nigeria is largely man-made. It's largely man-made. If you can reduce the cost of getting water, for instance, by making sure that pipe-borne water is available to every home, all right? Even if you're going to meter it. If you meter it at 30 kobo per litre, people are still going to pay because they actually pay more than that for Merua. It's two reasons. There's the crowd that knows that once that happens, the excess funds that they usually channel to infrastructure projects and still will disappear. Okay. So that group starts the argument and says, oh, it's going to result in inflation. The £1 billion per kilometer roads that the road projects that they write into the budget, will no longer be possible. They will now have to be rational with the way they charge for infrastructure projects. All right, that's number one. Number two, when they start their arguments, the smaller fish in the chain, they will now start making noise, sometimes based on herd mentality, and sometimes just because these guys feed them from the proceeds of their corruption. All right? And then the third group are the simpletons, the ones that actually don't know for a fact that it will result in inflation for sure. Their godfather or their leader or their potentate or tin god or whatever, they just echo. They're echoes. They're sounding boards. You say something to them, they just echo it back to you. So we start with increasing pay. The second thing that we're going to do is very quickly start reducing the cost of living. One of the biggest costs of living is transportation. Another one is power. All right? Now, transportation is bad because the roads are bad. So one of the things we're going to do very quickly is to tool up the Lagos Public Works Corporation, Lagos State Public Works Corporation. We're going to tool that up and widen its basis of operations so that it will now have bases in every local government in Lagos State. We'll equip them with the right equipment, including aerial survey drones, okay, that will help them to be able to identify trouble spots in traffic, investigate whether it's potholes that's causing the problem, and fix the potholes, even if it's on a temporary basis. Then in the medium term, all right, when I say medium term, I mean in the immediate medium term. The short term is fix the potholes within like 2 or 3 days, right? In your local government, you go there. Let's say you're in Alimosho local government as Lagos State Public Works Corporation area office for that particular local government area. What you do is you do a quick survey within a day or two of all the roads in Alimosho, identify where the potholes are, work out a plan of action. Because at the moment, the local governments simply don't have the financial capacity. Allocation is taken by the state. That's the problem. It's only theft, and hypocrisy. That's what it comes to. They're asking the federal government for restructuring, for devolution of power, for the federal government to allow them, the state level, to flourish and prosper. But they, at the same time as they are demanding that from the federal government, they're also squeezing and stifling the local government level by taking all their funds, by taking all their constitutional responsibilities away from them, so that they don't have the opportunity to earn the kind of revenue that they need to address the needs of their people at the local level. It doesn't make sense for a governor that wants to work to try and carry all the load on his own head alone. Doesn't make sense. And that's the reason why Lagos is a mess, because the governors that we've had, they focused more on the cash that they're getting from the local government. The whole IGR story, it's a scam. It's a gigantic scam, all right? And I'll explain it to you. They came into office. The first thing they did was they took waste management from the local governments and created something they call LOMA. Waste management is the constitutional preserve of local governments. So when they took it from them, they started earning more money. Then they said, oh, look, we've increased the IGR. Alpha Beta needs to be here because they've found this source of income, all right? But Of course, what happened was the local governments lost that source of income. The state gained it. So the state was able to present this, and then they created LASA, Lagos State Advertising Agency, and those ones, of course, started announcing, oh, we now make so much more money, so we've brought more IGR to the state. But of course, what that meant was that the local governments also lost that revenue header. And then they brought land use charge and said it now applies to, they first raised the land use charge as it applied to commercial premises, okay? And then they included residential premises, private residences, and empty tenements. Well, let me put it like this. Alhaji Jakande came into government never having been a government official. He came into the government as a publisher, okay? A publisher and printer. And when he came into government, he turned out to be the best governor in terms of achievement, in terms of value for money and so on, that Lagos State had ever had prior to him. I'm coming in as a real estate developer that has managed to provide electricity for the last 8 years to a small community with my own resources. I've come into government as someone who has built over 300 homes in a period of about 8 years in a small community in Lagos. I've provided water on a 24-hour basis to that community. I've provided security. I've provided janitorial services to that community so that people are living in relative peace and tranquility and serenity in that community. So we provided all these services to all these people without collecting personal income tax, without collecting land use charge, without collecting infrastructure development levy, without collecting development levy, without collecting motor park fees, without collecting advertising, hoarding, and hotel consumption tax. All these taxes that the Lagos State government has been collecting for the last 20 years without providing anything for the citizens in return. We are managing to provide in all these services, and all people have to pay is 520,000 per annum. And we provide everything, all right? Yes, the electricity is metered and they have to pay as they go, but hey, at least it's available. And that's the important thing. We will collect those revenues, but then we'll provide incredible value for money as compared with these, current people that have been creaming off Lagosians, squeezing Lagosians with their squeeze economy. In Lagos State, being a real estate developer means you're a virtual government unto yourself. You provide everything. You do better than the government. And that's what we've been doing for the last 8 years. And most importantly, we've done it all without actually borrowing or getting access to government funds at any level. No contracts, no waivers, no allocations of oil blocks or any other stuff like that. No special concessions of any type, nothing. And we've been paying our taxes as well. Unlike Alpha Beta, we have been paying our taxes. Unlike Alpha Beta that has been getting free money from the people of Lagos, delivering little or no services, we've been delivering services and we've been paying our taxes on top of it. My ambition to lead Lagos predates the Buhari administration. Well, predates the current Buhari administration because, of course, he had been in government earlier, that many years ago when I was a teenager. And that's the reason I raised the alarm when he suddenly turned up again and the Tinubus of this world and the rest of them coalesced around him. And I kept warning people, I said, if this guy becomes president of Nigeria, Ona go hear him. But people didn't listen, especially young people who were not old enough to having gone through the horror that was the first Buhari administration as a military dictator. So, as far as your question, no. My ambition predates that. It predates the Buhari administration. I'd wanted to run Lagos as early as 2011. Well, every governor of Lagos State since independence, since Lagos State was formed actually, has been either a military person or somebody with no experience of providing the services that Lagosians actually need right now. For the first time in the history of Lagos State, somebody that knows how to provide power, that knows how to provide water, that knows how to build homes on a large scale, that knows how to build roads that don't fail, that knows how to provide drainage that doesn't cause flooding, that knows how to keep an environment neat, serene, and green, and has verifiable experience of all these skills and abilities, has come to run for office. It is very important for Lagosians that this time around we take a bold step of rejecting the past and going with the future.